Well, hello there, my little potatoes. On today's Potato Bite, we're going to be taking a look at the difference between using REM as a font size and using EM, and why I think REM is the safe choice and EM is absolute chaos. Long story short, REM is a size based upon the size that you've set in the root element, which is the HTML tag. So this means that if you say font size 14 pixels in the HTML tag, then one REM now equals 14 pixels. So since EM doesn't have that R, it means that it will go on a quest through all and any of the parent elements to find a parent element with a set size. So for example, 2 divs up, someone set 52 pixels to be the font size. Congratulations, 1 EM now means 52 pixels. Hence why I say EM is chaos. Let's take a quick look at an example in code. Currently, they look very similar, and you'll see that if we go into the HTML tag, the font size has been set to 24 pixels. So by changing this value, you'll see it impacts both the REM values and the EM values in exactly the same way. And this is why everyone thinks that there's no difference. So the only reason for this is because the only higher up element with a set font size at this point is the root element. So if we jump over to these containers right now, you'll be able to see that on the REM side, we have set the heading to be a value of 1.5 REM. And then the paragraph will be 1 REM in size. So similarly, if we move over to the EM side, you'll notice that the headings at this point are 1.5 EM and the paragraph 1 EM in value. So now that you know what the problem is, it is time to create some chaos. So changing that value, currently they act the same, right? But let's say your company decides to hire a guy by the name of Jimmy. And Jimmy is deciding to add a font size value to this random container, not knowing that somewhere inside of all of its various children lies a font size EM. So let's see what happens. He adds a font size property there, tiny font size, and now boom, your EM has shrunk. Even though the REM is inside of that container as well, you'll notice that it stayed exactly the same size. It's only the EM that has changed. Remember that these two EM elements changed because one of its various parents got a font size property. So if we take a look at another div element, let's do one closer to home, and we suddenly add a font size property there, maybe let's do something larger this time. You'll notice that suddenly, boom, the EM properties are affected again, and this time they're large. REM is our trusty good friend, it's still safe, but EM is absolute chaos. So it's good to remember that EM always looks at its immediate parent. If its immediate parent does not have a font size value, it will go up in the hierarchy. So let's remove this font size to actually show you. It'll go up in the hierarchy to see, oh wait, this guy actually has a font size. And if you remove that, and let's say we add another one, a font size, a ridiculously large one, if I could spell it correctly, to this div over here, you'll see, boom, we have more problems. Sometimes it makes the containers overflow if it's ridiculously large, or sometimes it's too small to read. So essentially, it'll keep looking at all of its parents' containers for a font size until it ends up at the root, which is why it was initially looking normal. This is why REM is safe and EM is chaos. A real life example is if a client decides, hey, I want to change the fonts. So not all fonts are equal in how wide they are, how big they are. And if, let's say, for example, you set it to a ridiculously wide font, now suddenly you have containers overflowing. And if you went and you set in every single element itself, you're like, oh, this is 14 pixels, this is 12 pixels, this is EM, this is whatever. Updating that font in every single location is really time consuming and such a waste. If you just go and you've used REM, you can literally just change it in the root tag. If you change it there, it'll automatically scale accordingly throughout the rest of the application. That's all for today. Please leave a comment if you have any specific questions you'd like me to tackle next.